Hi, and welcome to Villify, a show that examines if a villain is really good or not. We're your hosts, Clint and Chris. And today we're going to look at one of the classic movie villains of all time, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, specifically looking at the Joker. What a great movie this is. So first off, we're going to look at the background of the Joker, which is really interesting because Christopher Nolan intentionally left the Joker's background out of the movie. He's very vague and ambiguous. He keeps changing his backstory of how he got his stars to intentionally throw off the police and Batman and all the other people in The Dark Knight. But here's the thing. It actually throws the audience off as well because we don't know where he's coming from. We don't really know what he's doing. Christopher Nolan actually said we never wanted to do an origin story for the Joker in this film because the arc of the story is much more Harvey Dent's. The Joker is just presented as an absolute. It's a very thrilling element in the film and a very important element that we wanted to deal with, the rise of the Joker, not the origin of the Joker.
He said this is Harvey Dent's story?
That's what he said.
Wow.
That was him.
I mean...
So he, even when they...
Can I disagree with the director?
I don't know.
I'm not sure this is Harvey Dent's story.
I think it's the origin story of Two-Face.
I think...
But, you know...
But also, spoiler, not. I mean, it's like they killed a giant member of the Rogues Gallery.
I mean... Yes.
So, wow. Okay. But, interesting.
But what's awesome is...
Gary Oldman's not a bad guy in this one.
Well, no. He's not.
He's always a bad guy.
But when Heath Ledger was asked about the Joker, he just said that he's a psychopathic, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy. And so there's not really supposed to be a background for the Joker in this film. He's just supposed to be there.
Do you think there's meaning for why he tells the stories differently?
You know, that's a great question. I think he actually is a bad guy that the part of his mystique is you don't really know where he's coming from. You don't really know what's true. You don't know if the story about his dad abusing his mom and getting the scars or he did the scars to impress a girl. You don't really know which one's true and which one's not. And that's kind of the fun of
Well, I noticed that with the he's bringing it up and it's relevant to who they are.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because it's not about him.
Yeah.
All he's trying to do is sow a seed of...
I think this movie is not only about Batman being the hero that Gotham deserves, it's about Gotham also getting the villain that they deserve, which is the Joker.
I've watched it so many times now for this review. I'm not even sure this is a Batman movie.
Oh, that's pretty good. So
the Joker's the only one who has agency in the whole movie. Everybody else is kind of just following along and going, what can I do? The only times that's not true is Batman goes to China.
It's true.
For the Chinese audience.
It's true. It does follow Joker. And if you could say a point of view from the Joker of the movie, what would you say?
Good question. I wrote one down. Great couple of days. Blew up a bunch of stuff. Slid down a mountain of cash, Scrooge McDuck style. Figured out cell service transmits through human flesh. And set up an elaborate moral philosophy experiment.
It was
great couple days.
That is a great point of view.
I'm not sure he had much other... That's what he did.
All right. Now comes to my favorite part of Villify, is rating the villain. Now, Villify has 6 categories to rate in. We rate in plant success. We rate in evil rating. We rate in abilities. We rate in successfulness, we rate in resolution, and we rate in portrayal. And then we rate those things 1 out of 10, each of those categories, and we take the average of those categories to get the official Villify rating.
What's your average? What's your average for the Joker?
For all of the Joker?
For everything.
I would have to say the average for everything is 9. Ooh, 9. I know. Okay. I don't give high ratings, and this is not really, but this Joker is just
Episode number
good.
1 coming out of the...
Right?
Coming out.
I mean, if you wanted to do a pansy Joker with Jaws 3, we didn't do a pansy villain. We did probably the best villain ever made.
I put I have 7.6.
Oh, I hate you. I hate you so much.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. All right, well, let's get into it. So, so plan. What did you?
I think the plan rating is 9 because of how much had to happen and just how good he is at adapting at those scenarios. He's good when the bus blanks into the bank of that guy dying at that moment. He's good at his ability to survive. Is the plan, I think, and he just does such a fantastic job over and over again pulling that off. And I gave him a 9. So.
I gave him an 8.
Really?
I feel like that's it's high. Yeah. I think the vagueness of like, imagine this movie in a different movie. Joker's arc might have ended when mob boss shot him in the back with a shotgun. Mm. There's several times throughout this whole movie where he could have just died and his plan would be fine. What we get is this 2.5 hour epic of plans that work. I mean, he's standing on the street in the opening shot, like with his mask off. He's already got the paint on.
Yeah.
So what if a cop just walked up and was like, "Hey, you!
Why do you have all that makeup on?" Maybe he's just thinking he's an evil clown for a birthday party.
Yeah, but I don't know.
That's terrible.
The police...
If you hire a birthday party clown and get the Joker, you may want to cut that thing short.
So we're not too far off there.
So
where did you rate the successfulness?
Successfulness, I rated it as a 7. And the reason why I rated it as a 7 is because there's some plans, like I said, he was so good at spur of the moment that he had to adjust. He had to adjust on that. And he didn't count for some things. He didn't count on Batman coming at him at a motorcycle. But he was just so good at adapting to it.
Okay.
And so
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did his plan work?
Well, depends on what you think. If you think his plan is to get caught by the cops, yes, his plan worked. And so if that was his plan,
one plan worked.
And so, but the bank worked. The rising to power as a villain worked. Rising against the mob bosses worked. He got Lau like he said he would.
But in the end, he got caught.
He did.
And all he did was get a bunch of criminals off the street and also kill some cops, which is bad. Mm-hmm. So he did a lot of evil stuff, but his goal wasn't just do evil stuff. His goal, as he says, was to win the heart of Gotham. Well, they were fighting for the heart of Gotham.
They were fighting.
And at the end of the day, his ace in the hole was Dent.
Yeah.
And all of that to watch.
But his success
because Batman's a symbol.
He just wanted to tear down Batman. I think he actually did a good job of that.
But he did.
He did. Because at the very end of the movie, they end up chasing Batman while he's running. And only 2 people know the truth.
But there's a sequel.
And so, there is. But we're not talking about the sequel. Right?
Right.
If you left it right there, Batman's being chased by the police.
Vigilantes are already bad guys. Uh-huh. So ideally, at any point, somebody could have been like, Batman killed this person. You know what I mean? So I gave it a 5.
Oh wow!
I don't think he succeeded in the big plan. I think his little plans, succeeded a lot.
Yeah. And so, that's a beautiful part of different things, even though you're wrong. Evil rating.
I think we'll agree on this one.
Really?
Okay. I gave it an 8.
An 8. Whew. Yeah, that's good. Like I said, I love villains. I think a movie is only good as its villain. And The Dark Knight is probably my second favorite movie ever made. And so, in coming at it from an evil rating, I truly think the Joker's a 10. Because he's a 10, he's so good at making you believe. He's so good at making you afraid. He even made the actors afraid. There's a famous story with Michael Caine in that famous scene where he breaks in Harvey Dent's fundraiser. There's a famous story with Michael Caine that he had a whole bunch of lines to the Joker, but he couldn't say it because he was so taken back by the character and what was said, and it was better not being said. And that's one of those famous stories that I think the evil rating on it is you have the characters in a way that they don't know how to respond to him, that they're just taken aback. I mean, his plans. I mean, come on, having someone, one of your cronies that follow you, light him up with things that light, like a cell phone in his stomach with Christmas lights and blow up, that's evil. That's evil.
I don't know though. I do agree. I mean, that's why I gave him an 8. But like, there's a lot of times where he doesn't kill people that he could. I think, arguably, the most evil thing he does is a contradiction to what he says in maybe his most evil lines in the movie, which is when he's trying to get that cop to fight him. I don't think he's telling the truth. I think he's just saying, hey, guy, fight me. And the guy's like, no. And he's like, I killed a bunch of your friends.
That was pretty evil.
I mean, it is, but I think he's lying, because who did he kill with a knife in this movie?
Yeah, that's true.
Like 2 dudes?
That's true.
As he did a sit-up,
Yeah.
which we can all do.
But those weren't cops.
They weren't cops.
Yeah.
I think he's lying to get that guy to fight him, part of his plan.
Yeah.
But like, I think why was that guy in there in the first place?
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I was wondering when I watched it.
It's a locked door. You don't need a cop in there to what? Make sure he doesn't like hurt himself, I guess?
Stare at you and make this.
Put him in some shackles
Why
or whatever.
would you give the guy his phone call? I mean, that's like standard procedure.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
But I also guess getting beaten up by Batman is.
I feel like at that point you're in a standoff, right? Like if the cops were like, no, and Joker's like, yes, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
What do you do if you just don't give him the phone?
Yeah.
Like,
You know what's crazy too is that if that guy literally just leaves the room, movie's over.
I don't think that he's as sadistic as what he portrays himself as, because like in that scene, he could have killed all those cops that they were impersonating. Yeah. Instead, he just wrapped them up and put them in the So there's times where he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And abilities, and this is where I went maybe a little too high in the ability factor, but I think that Joker's superpower is he's a cockroach, the ability to survive. And that's what he does. I mean, how in the world can you survive someone like Batman, who, you put him up against any other superhero, Batman doesn't have any of those things, and superheroes are terrified of Batman. You know, I mean, and so you have this Batman who's terrifying, and Joker's ability to keep him on his toes and to just make him terrified. That's why I gave him a 9, and which is why I love it. Now, can he do all the other things? He does all the other things. You know, I mean, despite the fact that, I mean, you take the social experiment of the 2 boats. If Debo's not in that boat to throw out the detonator, you know? It's like,
bold choice to get Debo.
right? I mean, if he doesn't throw out the detonator, one's getting blown up. And so, I mean, it's just,
I don't know, man. Okay. What does he do in this movie? Other than plans?
Oh. Well, I mean, kills people.
Okay.
He says some really great one-liners.
He does have some great one-liners.
Like,
He's very philosophical.
Yeah.
He does the pencil trick.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like that was all just a surprise. His power is sowing chaos.
Yes.
But arguably, based on my rating for success, I don't think he sows as much chaos. This whole film takes over the place of 3 or 4, 5 days or something, right? So we've got this really bad week. Past that, the story's done.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if his power is chaos, his abilities are that intimidating. But I mean, they're more than me, so I gave it a 5.
So you gave abilities of.
I gave abilities. What else does he do?
Yeah, I mean, you got some solid points right there, but I think that his ability to, I mean, come on, he has a whole city that is on the brink of economic rise. He makes the whole city of mass chaos again.
I'm not saying I don't like the portrayal.
I get it. We're going to get the portrayal.
I'm not saying I don't like the Joker in this.
Yeah.
I also have bad things to say about Batman in this movie.
How dare you.
His mask is stupid, but
it's got
this weird jack-o'-lantern thing going on.
So resolution is...
I gave it a 10.
Really?
I gave it a 10.
I gave a lower score than you.
Okay, but here's the deal. In no point was he not dedicated. In his 1 week, at no point was he not dedicated to his plan. Like, even to death. The only point his whole plan wouldn't have done some bad with him dying is in that bank. Because that would have just been a botched job at that point. Yeah. But everything past that, almost, if he was completely willing to die as part of sowing chaos, I'd say he's pretty resolved.
Yeah. I gave it a 9.
Okay.
And which is still pretty high. And like I said, I don't usually give high remarks on these things, but you know, the resolution of everything, he's completely sold out to it. But I don't feel like if that last plan, if he would have blown up the ship with one of those two, if that would have blown up, this would have been a 10 out of 10 in almost every category because everything set out. Yeah, he was.
He got stopped.
He was. I mean, you know, and so
because his abilities are not that good.
It was so it was just so good. It was just so I gave it a 9 because he didn't follow through on its very last, like it got stopped, which you're right.
You ever think that Batman's in the middle of a fight and he breaks character from doing that stupid voice? Like this Batman's, he's still trapped and he's still like from right here. He's like, I saw you got these scars.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, so portrayal. I mean 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
I do like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Yeah, I do too.
I think his arguably is not the Joker, but I do think that from the moment Heath Ledger gets on screen till the very end, he is captivating.
Absolutely.
Like,
so good.
The nonverbals in this movie.
Yeah.
Like that scene when he goes into the gangsters in the middle of the day, and every single thing he does in that scene is incredible.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of lip acting.
Yeah.
Where he's like,
yes, he does.
And he does this little cookie thing where he's like,
yeah. And I don't like sounds from mouths. That's weird to me. But I loved it from him.
Arguably, all sounds.
It's true
that humans make to communicate.
I'm talking about
come from the mouth.
Smacking sounds from mouth drive me a little insane.
Well, he does a lot of that.
It's like he does, but I didn't mind it from him because he's already evil. You're not supposed to like him.
This one did a really good job of maintaining that line of realism and like cartoon, right? Yeah. Like that scene when he opens up his jacket and he's got all those grenades.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that was pretty funny.
Even that, you see his little wiggle of his finger, like just to remind people, hey, I'm here. These are all like choices that Ledger like brought to this role that it wouldn't have been what it was.
I mean, let's be honest. Without Ledger's Joker, you would never get to Joaquin's Joker because they wouldn't have done a Joker movie. Yeah. I don't think they would have known there was that much depth to the character if first it wasn't paved the way by Ledger.
It's a tragedy.
You know?
It is. He was amazing.
He was amazing. He was amazing in it. And I mean, in everything from...
And I'm not a Heath Ledger fan.
I like three of his movies. I like Knight's Tale. It's fun. It was a fun flick, you know. But this movie was so out of character for him. Yeah. You know, it was such a jump.
I mean, I remember the news like, you know,
and I was like, Heath Ledger's going to do it? That's going to be a terrible movie. But it wasn't. He was actually, I think Ledger gave the standard for all other villains to come up with, because if you think about movie villains, like especially superhero villains before even that, they were all cartoony, they were all campy, there was no depth to the character or anything like that. I think Ra's al Ghul kind of paved the way in Batman Begins, but that's Nolan's take. I don't really think, but man, he just went full rabbit hole with Ledger, and you can even you can make an argument that almost every superhero movie after The Dark Knight is better because the villains are better.
Who wrote this movie?
And so
Nolan didn't write this.
I thought Nolan did write this.
Right. I'm looking it up, guys.
And so
yes, it was written by Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan. But
love it when a plan comes together.
There's this like yin yang thing where like the opening scenes parallel each other, where they get asked a question at the end of the sequence that introduces them. And for Joker, it's what do you believe in? Because he's saying like the criminals used to believe in things in this town, and he's like, what do you believe in? And then the answer is, what doesn't kill you makes you stranger, which, you know, is a great character moment for the Joker when he takes off his mask. But that sentence doesn't mean anything. Really, it's like vapor. It's like, I'm crazy. Like that's his goal. But then for the Batman one, when it closes out the sequence with the Scarecrow, he says, the guy's like, "What's the difference between you and me?" I do a lot of voice acting here, really, guys. If you're interested in hiring me for your next gig, I do a lot of voice acting. Shoot me an email. What's the difference between you and me? He sounds like that, though. He's like real, and that's on purpose. He sounds real whiny, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And you know, Batman's like, "I'm not wearing hockey pads." That's also not an answer. Like, so there's this parallel that they're doing throughout the whole movie. Yeah. That's why I was so surprised when he said, this is Harvey Dent's story. Yeah. Because arguably, it's not. Like, Dent is a MacGuffin at the end of the movie. Yeah. Like, he's the, oh, crap, you forgot about this. Like, I need to, you know what I mean? So that's what, I love the choices that Ledger made in here. And I'm not trying to take away from any of that. But this is also just genius writing.
It's fantastic. And I mean, if you look at it, this is really the first superhero movie that took this road. That took the road of, like, the first Batman's and Batman's Return, they were dark, but they were still, like, comic booky dark. You know, like, Jack Nicholson's Joker was comic booky. He was comical. He danced at the end. He did the little gun thing, came out, bang. That was the Joker then.
I did like the gas that came out of that. I think he killed that guy, or was it just some sort of knockout gas?
100% killed him. And,
Probably.
But I love, this was the first movie that took a very serious, changed superhero movies, I think, forever. This one really did. And just the writing, the directing, all of it. Just
I feel like I need to argue with you on that, but I also can't think of any other super villain before this that was
good. We came out of the gate riding 10 seconds on a Bunkin' Bronco. This thing is the best. I mean, I really think this is one of the best villains we have, and that's why I rated him so high. So coming out of the gate, I had a 9. What did you have?
7.6.
7.6. All right. So 7.6. 8.3.
Now, did I convince you at all? Do we need to bump him down at all?
You know, the only thing that I think you convinced me on was...
He should be a 10 for resolution.
Yeah. Up higher. No, I really think the abilities is, if you anything, his ability, I may bump it down from a 9 to, like, I would say maybe an 8. And so, which would probably change the score just a little bit, but
I had a real impact on you.
You know, I mean,
went all the way from 9 to 8.
You know how hard it is to admit that character wasn't. It's like I died a little inside.
Yeah.
You know, did I change you at all?
Well, I mean,
that's a no.
No, maybe. What was the first one?
Plan.
I mean, I don't know. I gave him an 8. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's a good plan.
It's up there.
He's good. I really think so. So, Chris? What did we learn from him?
Like the Joker in general. Okay, so obviously, like the deeper meaning of the film is one thing, but if we were to learn something from the Joker, I would say that it revolves around. You know, sometimes you don't need plans, but also you do. Because he said when he's talking to Dent in the hospital, and he says he's making the play that like everybody needs chaos, and he has this famous line where he says, "I'm an agent of chaos." And I believe this is when he says it. I'm an agent of chaos, and chaos is fair.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I also might go into the background there. I guess if the FBI was doing a psych analysis on this guy, someone hurt Joker at some point.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Whether it was his father or his
girlfriend,
ex-wife.
Or his wife.
I think it was his wife.
Or his mom.
Gambling ex-wife.
Yeah.
Somebody hurt Joker.
Or his dad who he hates. Or sometimes loves. We don't know.
We don't know. But somebody hurt him. And I think, my point is that he does have this great line about like, if I said that, a gangster was killed yesterday, nobody would care. Yeah. If I said a whole busload of soldiers were blown up, nobody would care because it's all part of the plan. And I don't think he means like Illuminati, like there's people doing this. He's using plan to say that it's just normal. This is the way the world works. But the moment you threaten the way that we view the world, if our world falls apart, then I have to say that like maybe our world is not grounded on something that's stable. If like our plans fall apart and we're like, oh, my life's over. So I think that's something that we can learn from this villain.
It's a good one. I think something that we can learn from this villain is, one, you're only going to be as good as a villain as the hero that challenges you. Yeah. And so, and I think, I don't think we should go out and do what the Joker did in any which way, shape, or form, but I do think that in the cinema world, he's about as good as it gets as bad guys. Here at Villify, we would love to hear from you. And we want to know what you think. We'd love to know your thoughts. We'd love to know what we got right. We'd love to know what we got wrong. Why don't you leave a comment and like our video, because we'd love to hear from you. So next time at Villify, we're going to be covering the movie Spider-Man Homecoming. We're going to be covering Vulture. I cannot wait to diagnose that guy. It's going to be fantastic. We'll see you next time. All of us at Villify. You have a great one. Peace.